Okay, cool.
Okay, hello everybody. We're back
All
with
right.
another episode. Today it's me and the co-hosts. Introduce yourselves again.
Junie.
I'm
Yeah.
very. You don't want to introduce
That's
yourself. Are we beefing?
No, no, no.
Sorry. It just took it. That was just like a second delay. We're not. I'm Vera.
Okay. Okay. So today, last week we spoke about women, right? How basically generally it's just healing and women. But now, like, we're taking it a step further and we're discussing when men don't heal, how it hurts women and families. So this is episode 3, and I'm going to read something. When men don't heal, their wounds don't stay hidden. They spill over into the lives of women, children, and entire families. Cycles of anger, absence, pride, or silence often trace back to unhealed pain. But God's design for men isn't brokenness, it's wholeness, strength rooted in love, and leadership grounded in Yeshua. For this episode, scriptures will be Ephesians 5:25. Husbands, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. And Psalms 147:3, he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. So let's get right into it. Um, Defining brokenness in men. What does it look like when men lead from unhealed places? I'll start because I'm also on my own healing journey. If you follow me on Instagram, you know from Lada, from those, I be for those at the back. Like I experienced trauma and all of that cute stuff, but I started healing. But I feel like the healing made me have a lens to look at other broken people, other broken men, since that's what we're talking about, and have compassion and give them grace. And I can't lie, this is just recently. If you ask me like 1 month ago, a few weeks ago, that was not the answer. But like this is where I am now, because I thank God that I have the strength to be able to overcome it. But the question is, what does it look like when men lead from unhealed places? What it looks like is bitterness, anger, um, pride as well, and there's a lot of ego because he's a man. So you'd experience those kinds of things in the home. You'd see men that are angry, anger especially, and they're very irritable as well. How about you guys? What do you think? What does it look like when men lead from unhealed places? And when they lead from those kinds of places, it can't really do anything. That's not even leading.
Should I go first?
Anybody can go.
I think you said it right. I think they lead from a space of a lot of ego, anger. Uh, should I say like you can't correct them, because they think that if you try to like correct them, you are um being disrespectful. Um, and also like for the kids, they would be scared of that type of dad because kids are annoying. They do a lot of stuff that they shouldn't do. So if they feel like, oh, if I do this, dad is gonna like flip out, they're not gonna have a good relationship with the father. And for the woman in the home, should probably be more quiet. And I don't know if you guys have seen families where like the woman is really smart and her husband doesn't even know. Her husband
Yeah.
doesn't even know. Like you could tell like that's a very, very weird family. If you don't know, that shows that the man is leading from a point of like ego and a lot of like anger. So she just rather just be quiet
I
so they
think
could
it
all get
depends on the
along.
type of brokenness that the man has. There are men that maybe just due to their background have been emasculated whatever went on whilst with kids, they didn't have a male role model or a man in the house. They tend to be more feminine. A man like that would not lead at home. And that's also leading. A man in the house that's a man but is absent, his masculinity is absent, his leadership role is absent, would just not lead at all. And that's some sort of leading,
Mhm.
because it's leaving that energy to the woman to carry.
Yeah.
So again, it depends on the type of hurt brokenness we're talking about. He could also, come out like you guys have said, as a man that's always angry, he's always right, narcissism, all of that. So again, it depends on the type of brokenness. It would show up in the family in different ways.
You're right.
I
So
don't know. Never mind. Go ahead.
no, 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 no. Talk,
I
talk.
was gonna give an example of like a family that I know growing up back home. So we had a neighbor,
Yeah.
uh, and we like they're all scared of this man to the point where like if they hear the man's like car outside the gate, like, and we're all playing because we're all kids, they would run into back into their house. Some would act like they're sleeping, or like reading, or like they can't even be themselves. You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
then next to their, now I'm thinking about it, like what type of broken man is this? Like as a kid, we just thought like, okay, like sometimes like typical Nigerian dad type stuff. And now going back and looking at it, like a lot of men were broken. Like, why would your kids be so scared of you? And his wife is so scared of him. Like, even his sister, like his little sister was so scared of him one day that she was in her house doing something she shouldn't do. And he came abruptly. And rather than her, like she was panicking, she jumped. Like, the fence in my house is pretty high. She jumped to the next house and then she got bitten by a dog.
Oh,
Like it was just a whole thing. I'm just saying, like a lot. Like I know we see memes on Instagram about things like this and we laugh, but like real talk, guys, it's actually leading from a space of brokenness.
you're right. So we've already kind of touched on the points of how the family feels this weight. So how do women and children often carry the weight of male brokenness? You see, your example was perfect. Like it affects the way the family bonds. Everybody is living in fear, everybody is scared. But if we think about it, what we discussed last week or last episode, that the woman is the nurturer, the man is the protector. So imagine if the person that's supposed to protect you is you're looking at that person as an abuser, because that's what's happening. He doesn't even know that his pain is coming off
Mm.
as abuse to his children. That's why I said we have to look at these men and from a place of grace and love and understanding, because it's not easy to be a man, but then be a man with trauma and don't have the strength to even heal from it. So, what do you guys think? What happens when trauma goes unspoken in fathers, brothers, or husbands?
I
Sorry,
I
sorry, sorry,
bet.
sorry. I'm sorry. I read the wrong question. I'm sorry.
No, I understand. I get your
How do
question. Your
women
question
and
is,
children
how
often
does it
carry the weight
affect?
of
How
male
does it
brokenness?
affect the women and the
Yeah,
children?
sorry.
And
Yeah.
I'll say that I beg to differ in your introduction, because you said they carry the trauma, and I I think part of what this trauma consists is not having any trauma, to a large extent, not having any trauma at all. If you find men that tend to be angry and just abusive or whatever, they tend to be men that they were not corrected as kids. They were told you're always right. They had a notion that men are always right, and that's what leadership is to them. The fact that they come home and everyone's quiet, no one's opinion matters, just theirs. It's not those type of men. A lot of them is not born out of trauma. It's just born out of not being trained right.
Yeah, but that's a toxic.
So
That's a toxic
it's not
environment, isn't it?
they create a toxic environment.
Mm.
They are not born out of a toxic environment.
So what you're
They are
saying.
born. They are born out of. You're always right.
Mm.
Your way is always right. Again, like I said, what are we talking about here? We're talking about men they were born out. Most men that had the traumatic past, I would say a lot of them tend to be quiet and
Mm.
don't even want to lead or don't even know how to lead or lead in the wrong way, and not the type of men you guys are talking about. I
Yeah.
feel the type of men you guys are talking about are men that
You
when
think they're the ones who create the trauma? They were not even
yeah,
traumatized.
yeah,
Is that what
exactly.
you're saying?
Yes, yes, yes.
Mm.
They're not traumatized. They just create the trauma. And it's because they're
Yeah.
Yeah.
not traumatized and we're not nurtured right.
Yeah, actually, I don't have
Is
any
why they
arguments for
are.
that because that's actually a different take that I've never thought about. So I'm going to keep that
Mm.
inside and just keep that
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
on
So
it.
again, just because they're the ones doing the traumatizing,
Hmm.
again, you rightfully mentioned, it does affect the dynamics of a family. It breeds a family where your opinion is not heard. It breeds kids that have low self-esteem. Their esteem is actually damaged. It breeds in men, it breeds a sort of a trauma that just says, just look at that, he's always right, you're always right, go on and do that, right? And it breeds for in the girls, it breeds somebody that feels like, oh, my opinion is not heard, I just have to be timid. That's the sort of environment that it brings, no genuine love within the family. Everyone sort of associates love with fear, or love with abuse.
Yeah.
Um, and if for some, if they do want to rebel against that, whatever trauma is going on, they tend to go to the extreme. So they're out doing everything they're not supposed to do. The lady's trying to over accomplish. You know, she again, human interaction cannot or reaction cannot be boxed in one thing. It comes out in different ways.
You're right.
Some ladies tend to go
Absolutely.
out and overachieve just to want to prove God wrong. Some would just decide not to achieve anything at all. So it could be both.
And I
It
want
could be
to add
both
to that,
ends.
like with the example I was given, because the girl, the little her his sister, she was at the point in the relationship with my uncle. And honestly, even at that point, I was like, why are you with my uncle? Because he's a bad man. But now I'm actually going like, because I was a kid then, but thinking about it now, like she doesn't know better because her brother is probably so toxic in the house that that's all she knows. And that's why she'd be okay messing with my uncle. So like not only does it affect them to the point, and she's so timid, like she's a very timid woman, and she ends up with this same people repeat the pattern that they hate. You know what I'm saying? Because you just don't know better. Like she doesn't
So
like, I know
that's a
somewhere in her head,
perfect
she probably doesn't really like her.
that's a perfect segue into the next question is how does Yeshua's model of sacrificial love, according to Ephesians 5:25, reshape what true manhood looks like? That is, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. How does Yeshua's model of sacrificial love reshape what true manhood looks like? Guys, don't forget, like we have like 20 minutes left, so we have to be fast. So, yeah.
um I feel like Christ would be the perfect boyfriend, husband. We know that because he's very wise. And he's so wise to the point where he never really tells you what to do. He makes you figure it out. And I feel like that's what a good leader is. And he's always listening. He's always quick to listen and slow to talk. And when he talks, he really doesn't tell you what to do. He just tells you, like, I
Just
would do it
nudges
this
you
way,
towards the truth.
kind of. Yeah, he leads you towards the truth and tells like, oh, that basically that's how I'll do it. But he would never tell you do it this way. And that's because he leads from a point of love. And when you love someone, you're not insecure or anything, you don't like to tell them what to do. You just like to like gear them towards what you think is right. And as we could see, like Christ always does that. He always does that. And he never judges. Like he never comes from a point of, oh, I'm holy, I came here to save you guys, can't y'all see, like listen to me. Like no, he's always humble, especially with the people he's trying to talk to or the people that surrounds him. Like like even if we look at how he knew like Judas was gonna betray him, he didn't come off as like, oh, I know you're gonna like do this and this. He still spoke to him from love, like, I know one of y'all is gonna betray me. Like that just shows you how much he cares about how people feel. Like he always conducts himself in a very like, even though he's very diplomatic, like Christ is very diplomatic, he'll still say what he wants to say, but he just has a very um he would take his time to understand who he's talking to, so he gives the right response in the right way to that person. And I feel like that is just like the perfect
So basically, what you're
example of
saying
love,
is,
and that's why he's able to.
so
Mhm.
what you're saying is we
Go
should,
ahead.
the men should practice patience, love, um, kindness,
Understand. Right.
understanding, goodness, faithfulness, joy.
Right.
That's basically the
Yeah,
fruits
with
of
those
the
things.
Spirit.
Right, with
I
those things
I
you wait,
I
wait, sorry, give me a second, let me just finish what I want to say. With those things you eventually would be, I don't want to say be sacrificial. You would eventually, because you're understanding people. Just the idea of having patience is a sacrifice for a lot of people, because sometimes it's hard to have patience when you're talking to people or dealing with people. But just to sacrifice your anger, like your feelings, your emotion at that point to like get the point across is a point of sacrifice. And that's why he could actually take it to the cross. Like if he's not a patient person, he would never make it to the cross. Like no way.
Yeah. So Vera, you were about to say
I
something.
will say that, yeah, I will say that, when we talk about Yeshua and model of love, we're talking about leadership. And I think when we think true
That's
leadership,
spot on.
true leadership is service. You have to be willing to serve. Part of serving is understanding what the person you're serving needs. So when we talk about Yeshua's love, we're talking about service. Service is not commanding or is not telling, is understanding and meeting people where they're at. And
Mm.
along the way, helping them achieve the goal. That's when we talk about men, we talk about them being providers,
Yeah.
but that provision is not money. It's actually that service. That service to put all that their existence is to serve the family, is to understand where the family is and the goal and everyone they're carrying along, to help them see what the goal is and lead them there.
Mm.
And sometimes leadership has been misunderstood to be my way. No, that's not what leadership is. A true leader understands the followers, quote unquote, and service them and helps them realize and understand what the goal is, and together they get there. And that's what being a
And that's
husband.
difficult because you're dealing with different type of people. That's where the wisdom comes in, and the patience and the understanding and the listening part, because
Right.
like
I agree, but if you have those things should come
mm,
naturally, should
mm,
flow. I think the problem is when people think of themselves as
mhm.
leaders, they think people should listen and
Yeah,
hearken to
right.
me, rather than I should listen, understand what these people are saying, and find a way for us to meet at a middle ground to get to where we're going to.
I mean, there's something you say like a leader is not even the smartest person in the room.
It's
It's
not, yeah.
it's the person that knows how to
Listen,
and understand each person who they're dealing with, so they could get to where they need
yeah,
to go to. And I always understand that like some followers are actually smarter than the leaders, but the leaders just know how to
yeah.
understand everybody. Like, okay, this person is good for that. This person is good for that. Okay, this is how I talk to this person when I want them to do something. Like,
I
this is
mean, that takes a level of
management of people.
intelligence too, Sha. That's leadership.
Yeah,
Definitely,
It takes a level of
that's what
definitely.
intelligence.
I'd always tell Edna. I'd always say, I would say a leader is a person that's able to be calm in the storm, understand everybody's perspective, and find a way to move everyone along. And that's what Yeshua's love is. That's what should be mirrored in marriage. You should understand your wife's strengths or weakness, your kids, yourself, and find a way to make everything melt and in sync. That's
So let's move on to the next question, which is
what it's all about.
You
let's
go,
move
girl.
on to
You
the
go,
next
girl.
question, which is you guys did awesome. That's like even I am healing and like learning a lot from. That's why I'm not even really saying much. But like, what role does humility and surrender play in a man's healing journey? I think we already answered this from what we've discussed. So we'll just move on to the next one, which is compassion without excuse. How do we hold men accountable while still approaching them with compassion? Because that's very important, especially in we're Nigerian, right? We're Africans. And we said something in the beginning, it was Vera that said it, that um they were raised a certain type of way because of their culture. Like where Yoruba, for instance, the man is like looked like as like a God figure in the house. And that's not really that creates that toxicity that now makes him um transfer trauma to the family. So let's discuss how do we hold men accountable while still approaching them with compassion.
This
Any?
is really a tough question because to hold someone accountable sometimes might feel like you don't have compassion, and sometimes when you have compassion, they might not understand that they're being held accountable. Um, I feel like you have to first understand who you're dealing with, so like everything has to go with that. Like there's no one way to approach everybody. You have to understand who you're dealing with and how you talk to that person, when you talk to the person,
Yeah.
the things you say, the things you don't say. It takes a lot of wisdom to talk to someone and let them listen without feeling like that, because we're all adults. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, and also it also depends even if the man wants to listen at all. And then like we're just talking about this sort of man that you can't even talk to. So
Hmm.
like how do you even talk to that type of man to hold him accountable? I really
I
don't know.
will
Like
say
you
I
don't
will say
even.
that conversations like this are part of the process of holding men accountable.
Facts.
Because when we continue as a society to have conversations like this, men begin to understand that what they're doing is wrong. When in society, when you have issues with your brother or your sister, the elders, how do they approach it? That's how you begin to hold men accountable. When you have sons and daughters at the home, how do you treat them? How do you nurture them? That's the part of accountability. When a man messes up in the society, how do we talk to them? And with compassion is realizing that, what you've done is wrong, right? But we're compassionate enough to let you know that what you've done is wrong. And we're compassionate enough to help you with what it needs to heal,
Yeah,
right?
that's the grace that we're
Compassion is
talking
not
about in the
not
beginning.
admitting the wrong. It's admitting the wrong and saying, yes, you're human, you're wrong. You've probably done this because you don't know, whatever, whatever, whatever. But we are going to hold you accountable to heal. That's where the accountability comes in. Compassion is help realizing, yeah, you're human. To hair is human, but accountability must immediately be set in to
Mhm.
say we're going to hold you accountable to heal, and we're going to hold you accountable not to repeat this again. We're going to hold you accountable by also helping compassionately with therapy, with conversations, with all of this to get to the point of healing. That's how I
I
would address
totally
that
get what you're
question.
saying. Like, I'm just realizing that actually holding someone accountable is actually being compassionate, because you
Right,
would you just shut up and be like, no way, it's your life, just keep messing it up, and
right,
just live a
right,
miserable
right,
life. So
right.
you're
Right.
right. You're right.
Accountability is compassionate because
Hmm.
you're saying, yeah, I'm not going to judge you.
Hmm.
I'm just going to help you realize that what you've done is wrong. And I'm going to give you some guide to be better.
To
And
be
I
better.
think that's compassion. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yep, that's
agree.
that's
I
awesome
agree.
because that's how God loves us as well. He treats us with grace. He gives us grace to, no matter what we do, he still loves us. We can still be redeemed. With that being said, let's move on to the next segment, which is hope and restoration. How does male healing ripple out into stronger marriages, healthier children, and restored communities? You know, male healing looks like what we've discussed, which is having patience, having compassion, leading with kindness, knowing your role as a leader is really just service. And, like as a man, your whole life, you're supposed to be put your best foot forward as in to be able to sacrifice. Every step you take is sacrificial for the family because um that is like your own little jurisdiction and everybody else has theirs. But like if you're leading yours the right way, the world has less problems. If you think about it that way. So what do you guys think?
I think you said it perfectly. I think, and I don't think it's just the men. I think better homes create better society. Every
Mm,
everyone
great.
comes out of a family. So the better husband would mean a better daughter, a better son, a better uncle, a better nephew, a better, all of that. So again, a better woman in the house or whatever in the society, better everything. So of course it's a domino effect. When we have better homes, we're gonna have better kids and better society. Um, I mean, it's just I think it's just
Yeah,
that simple.
with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a domino effect. It's a
And
domino
that's
effect.
why we're doing what we're doing today, sitting down and having these conversations because it has to be had. It's, one step at a time. And with that being said, let's move to the next question, which is, what would it take for us to create a culture where men are safe to admit brokenness and seek help? You know, it takes two to tango is a very popular saying, meaning it takes two people to dance. And when you dance, it brings joy to also the people that are watching you dance, you that are dancing with your partner. And, it's a ripple effect like we've discussed. So the question is, right? Oops, sorry, 1 minute. Is what would it take for us to create a culture where men are safe to admit brokenness, to seek help? Is the wife, the family, we can't the other side, right? That's is because well, it's two sides to it, right? We have to be able to create a safe space for the broken man. Because that's where so
Mm.
even just like we discussed about having compassion, right? We have to be able to create, because it's not easy to be on the receiving end of trauma, it makes you tough, but like you can fold under pressure. But the best thing to do is overcome the pressure, and then also just like we spoke about the man putting his best foot forward, put your best foot forward as well, because he's human. Only thing is he has a defect which you can fix by showing him love. And by the time you practice and show him that, oh look, this is a safe space, that even though you shout, even though you are hitting me and like, or you're insulting me, or I'm just trying to think of as many bad scenarios as possible, that I would still show you love. I mean, if it's extreme, please dip, disappear. But like, you know,
Okay, I was about to say, let's be careful.
yeah, yeah.
We
But
don't want
like,
to
but
promote
still,
toxic relationships
no,
here.
no, 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 no. But still, if we create a safe space, the man, a good man, it that admits and that can feel that he's broken, would see his family still showing him love, would be able to come out of it in the mighty name of Yeshua. That's what me I can think of. What do you guys think? And then we round off the conversation.
I feel like we have to, as a society, especially with Black men. This is why I'm not saying that white men are not broken, but they're held accountable for their BS, because the society as a whole have decided to hold them accountable with their laws, with the way the society judges the situation. Um, Nigerians, we don't like to talk about therapy, but a lot of us need therapy. It's not, psychology is not just something that's like, oh, whatever. No, it's a big part of what makes a society, because it's the way people think, and like we're always thinking like good or bad. So I feel like therapy needs to be promoted. Also, um like we see stuff on blogs where like a man and a woman is like fighting or whatever. Like when you read the comments, it's disappointing. Like the things that Nigerians will say, like, oh, does he have money? Stay, like everyone's thinking is kind of effed up. So I feel like in order to start holding men accountable in a way where like it's not like judgy, but to I feel like society has to change the way we think. We just have to. It's just something we have to do, because how do we move forward if we're thinking the same way? Like how? It's just not possible. Like we could all sit here and have this conversation because we have a different way of thinking, and that's why we're trying to, you know, get other people like us, or get other people to understand where we're coming from. But in order to hold people up on their behaviors and okay, we really can't do this, it's about the society changing the way they think and having laws and I don't know what word to
I'm
use,
gonna, I'm
but
gonna,
I,
I'm
I,
going
I
to
think I
echo,
think
or now, but maybe in a different, with a different perspective, to say yes, the society does need to change how we think, but I would say that the thought that I'm talking about need to change. First, would be judgment.
mm,
We have to be able to balance judgment and accountability. I feel like as a society, when men admit brokenness, we judge them.
mm,
We judge them, and because of
mm.
that, we've
That was what
chosen.
happened with this artist Two Face, right? He was like broken a couple months ago, like he was down, and like they were really judging him for
We
coming
need
out. You
right.
know,
There's a need for a balance between judgment, accountability, and compassion. I don't think as a society, quote unquote, the Nigerian society we're speaking of, we've been able to find the right balance. It's either we judge them, or we're compassionate, or we don't hold them accountable. There needs to be a shift in perspective in where people, the society, are able to balance it and find where that admitted brokenness, are we going to be compassionate to help him heal? If it's a man that's just going about damaging people and has not admitted brokenness, are we going to hold him accountable? That's where the laws come in. There's a need for balance in the way that we approach this topic, and I think if we find the right balance, then are able to create a culture where men are safe to admit brokenness, because they know, okay, if I actually catch myself and I raise my hands up that I need help, I have a society that would not excuse what I have done, but would help me along the way. Rather than I'm going to be judged, or I have enough money, I'm not going to be held accountable.
right, right. It shouldn't even
Very,
be held
very solid
accountable.
points. So with that being said, guys, we're going to call it wraps. It's been an amazing episode. We'll be with you all next week discussing healing as usual. And we're going to leave you guys with this. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. That's Ephesians 5:25. And then he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147:3. Thank you guys very much. It's been awesome. Good night or good morning or
Bye,
whatever
guys.
time.
Bye.
Bye.